Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a recent decision taken by the government of India to shut down the transshipment facility that India used to provide to Bangladesh, the exporters of Bangladesh, as per the 2020 Indo-Bangladesh agreement. And this also is something we have to understand is a step India has taken to what you can call as a reaction or as a strong reaction against the Bangladesh premier or what you can call as the interim advisor's statement in China. And basically it also something that Bangladesh should take message from this decision, that maybe it has forgotten that India has less to lose if the war, basically not a war in the real sense, we'll talk about the words of war, anti-India stance, anti-India rhetoric that seems to emerging from Bangladesh in last few months continue. So let us try to understand this in more detail, that how the shutdown of transshipment facility is adversely going to affect the Bangladesh's economy. Now, the India's halting of the transshipment facility. Now, first of all, we have to understand when we use the term transshipment facility, what it basically means is that through this facility, the goods originating from the Bangladesh were allowed to use the ports, whether it is the land ports or whether it is the airports or what you can call as the shipping ports of India, to send or what you can call as sell goods to the third countries. That means Bangladesh could use the facilities of Indian port to export its goods to some other third country in the world. That was the benefit of transshipment facility. So since India has halted this facility, which was extended to Bangladesh, it has set off what we can call as alarm bells in many segments of Bangladesh society. First instance, and actually this is very important development, because due to the continuous anti-India rhetoric given by the government of Bangladesh after the ouster of Sheikh Hasina's regime, it is for the first time we have seen actual non-verbal escalation. Till now, whatever we have seen from both sides was a verbal escalation, was a kind of verbal tete-a-tete. So that is an example of, or this is example of first non-verbal escalation between the countries after the ouster of Sheikh Hasina, and that is why this development is very, very significant in the bilateral relations between both countries. Now, the reason why this decision was taken, to a large extent, many experts argue, is because of what you can call as the statement, irresponsible statement given by the interim advisor of Bangladesh, Muhammad Yunus, when he was on his 4-day visit to China. And he that time made a statement referring to the northeastern region of India, that it is a kind of landlocked region and Bangladesh is only or sole guardian of the ocean, referring to its coastline with Bay of Bengal. Now, this statement is not only what you can call as controversial or irresponsible in nature, but it cannot be far from truth, because we know that India has the longest coastline as far as the Indian Ocean is concerned, whether it is toward Bay of Bengal or it is toward the Arabian Sea. Now, obviously, such kind of statement has been taken in a negative way by both Indian media, Indian government as well as Indian people, because this kind of statement is basically considered as an extended invitation by Bangladesh to have a strategic, what you can call as a junction or a strategic point or vantage point for China in the Middle East, in northeastern region. Now, we know that China claims the entire Arunachal Pradesh to be its own integral part, and many times Chinese forces have clashed with the Indian security forces along the borders, whether it is in the Galwan region, in the Ladakh, or whether we have also seen a kind of standoff between the Bhutanese, Indian and Chinese forces in the this border areas. So such kind of statement basically also exposes what is considered to be a narrow corridor that connects the mainland India to the northeastern India. This corridor that you can see, which is referred as Siliguri corridor, also called as Chicken's Neck, which in the this what you can call as the narrowest section is just 22 kilometers long. And also another thing we have to consider is the recent efforts being made by the Bangladeshi government to revive and again redevelop a port, that is the airbase, that is Lal Munir Hat, which is in the Bangladesh. Now, if you look at the location of the Lal Munir Hat airbase, it is very, very close to the Chicken's Neck, and that is why any such kind of development is directly or indirectly pose a threat to the India's territorial and territorial integrity and the sovereignty. So, as a reaction of all these steps that the Bangladesh has been taking in the last few months, the government of India has finally decided to halt the transshipment. Now, this is something, a kind of message that also was given to Bangladesh when the two leaders, the Prime Minister Modi and Muhammad Yunus from Bangladesh, met at the sideline of BIMSTEC summit, where Prime Minister Modi has clearly asked Muhammad Yunus to avoid such kind of rhetoric that violates, that vitiates the atmosphere in a meeting, in the meeting between two, and that atmosphere, the vitiation of the atmosphere that we are seeing will do nothing but again downgrade the relation, the bilateral relation between India and Bangladesh. And now the one example of this we can clearly see. Now all these development are nothing but a mounting trouble for Bangladesh, because first of all we have to understand that why Bangladesh government, especially the interim government, seems to be not very happy with India. The first and foremost reason that experts argue is the decision taken by government of India to not extradite Sheikh Hasina to Bangladesh. We know that Bangladesh officially has already put extradition request as per India-Bangladesh treaty, but obviously we have to understand that India cannot be expected to compromise its civilizational integrity so easily, because everyone knows that if Sheikh Hasina is extradited by India to the Bangladesh, what will take place after is a mob trial and mock justice. She will not get what we can call as a true justice or real justice, because the entire situation in Bangladesh, entire image in the Bangladesh is now against Sheikh Hasina, and the interim government and their opposition parties will obviously try to take advantage of this so that she never can pose a political threat to these people. So obviously that is why government of India has not decided to extradite her, and this has created a kind of discomfort among the Bangladeshi politicians, and that may be one reason why anti-India rhetoric seems to be getting more and more amplified in the with the passage of time. Now, one thing we have to understand, that no matter whether the clashes occurs in terms of the verbal or non-verbal manner, finally it is the Bangladesh that is going to lose a lot. As compared to Bangladesh, India has very less to lose from not being on its side. If the Bangladesh is not being in sights, then the vice versa. The reason is because India, we know that it is a dominant power in South Asia, and that is why it can weather a standoff with much less damage. Now, this is not only we are talking about from the economic front, but we are also talking about from the defense perspective, from the security perspective, from the bilateral partnership it has with the countries, different countries of the world. And the example of this we can see from the fact that when US President Donald Trump was asked about the Bangladesh issue, he has clearly mentioned that he will let Prime Minister Modi to take action and take necessary steps regarding that, regarding the Bangladesh matter. Now, this is a clear indication the US do not want to interfere in this kind of what you can call as the disturbances that is going on in Bangladesh. And President Trump specifically talk about, he seems to be a strong believer of Monroe Doctrine. Now, Monroe Doctrine simply states that in any given region of the world, it should be the strongest country, or generally it is the strongest country, it is the largest and biggest country that has a sphere of influence, and it is this country that should be the largely the determinant of the development in this region. And that is something that Trump believes in, whether it is about US in the North America, whether it is about Russia in the Central and Eastern Europe, or in what you can call as the Eurasia, or whether it is India in the South Asia. Now, if you look at the pausing of or suspension of transshipment, how it is going to affect Bangladesh, let us try to understand this. Now, here also, if you look at from the economic perspective, Bangladesh export will be disrupted to a significant extent, and it will lose a large part of its export that it used to provide to the third countries, specifically in the European Union, such as US, such as Italy, Germany, Netherlands, and other in North America, such as US. Then you have United Kingdom as well. So, because of the lack of ports and lack of what you can call as the airports, seaports, and land ports, a lot of export from Bangladesh will be affected, and there can be a significant decline in the overall export value from Bangladesh. Second, the arrangement had a streamlined trade, making it easier and cheaper for Bangladesh to access international market using Indian infrastructure. So even though, let us suppose, Bangladesh found some other alternative through which it tried to ship the exports, then also it become much more expensive for its exporter, that will eat into the profit margin, and that can further cause decline in the employment. That means the unemployment rate can rise. Many of the industries and factories may have to shut down their production units, and that will create a further economic crisis for Bangladesh, which already is facing one of the worst economic crises that it has seen in the last few decades. And this has come especially when the US aid, one of the largest donor of the what you can call as monetary benefits, and behind many of the programs, the social benefit and welfare programs that was launched, now its aid has been cut down by the Trump administration. So already the economic problem seems to be not ending for the country. Now also, we talk about the Bangladesh exporter, it will increase overall the cost of production, and it will already already strained export sector, especially the booming RMG industry. We talk about the Bangladesh, one of the leading exporter. It is one of the leading exporter of the clothing. That means the ready-made garments, RMG, what it means here. So the clothing sector, the ready-made garment sector, which is also the largest employer in the Bangladesh, is going to be severely affected. It will raise the problems and the burdens on this particular sector as well. Now, if you look at the export value of Bangladesh in the last fiscal year itself, Bangladesh has achieved a milestone of the highest ever export of $50 billion, and it was growing steadily at a rate of somewhere about 8.3%. Now, as we have discussed, the biggest contributor of this export was the ready-made garment sector, and that is why it is rightly referred as the backbone of Bangladesh economy. It was also witnessing a growth of more than 10% annually here. Now, apart from RNG sector, leather and leather goods were other important export avenues. Then you have the cotton and cotton product exports that are also surging by almost 16%, and total value stood at about $319 million. Now, this growth, whether we are talking about in the RNG sector, in the leather sector, or in the cotton or in cotton product export, this largely was possible due to the efficient and cost-effective trade routes. When Bangladesh used to ship to any third country using the transshipment provided by India, the cost of export was much more lesser in this case. That is why Bangladesh exporters were able to maintain their competitiveness. They were able to produce at a cheaper cost and able to get much more higher profit margin. Now, this will seem to be not true in the coming time because of the pause here. Now, on the other hand, if you look at the statement given by the APEC, that is the Apparel Production Export Committee of India, we can see that they have said that due to the pause of transshipment, it will improve the efficiency of logistics, because due to a lot of export and the goods that were provided or that were brought into India by Bangladesh, there was a lot of jams, or what you can call as congestion, at the key hubs of India, such as New Delhi. And due to this, there are a lot of congestions and a lot of demand at the New Delhi airport. Airfare was very high. So due to this, domestic exporters can now take a sigh of relief, a breath of relief, because the airfare will undergo rationalization that will decrease the overall cost of transportation for the domestic exporters of India, and it will increase the competitiveness of domestic exporter. Thus, the India's domestic exporter, we can say, will be benefited due to this particular decision here. Now, other thing we have to understand from the geopolitical perspective, we try to understand, China factor seems to be a key factor that is driving the anti-India rhetoric in the Bangladesh, because now Bangladesh seems to be cozying up, especially if you look at the statements and the speeches that he has given, the Mohammad Yunus has given. It seems that he is trying to cozy up with China. He is trying to invite China in the backyard of India. He is trying to invite China to increase its presence, whether it is the military presence or whether it is economic presence in the Bay of Bengal region along the coast of Bangladesh. But that seems to be very contradictory to the Bangladesh aspiration of a return to democracy. We know that the region why Sheikh Hasina was ousted is because many of the opposition parties, even Mohammad Yunus and many student leaders, believe that she was becoming a dictator. Now, obviously, Bangladesh is trying to cozy up to China, and China, as we know, its ruling regime is known to be authoritarian as far as the domestic affairs are concerned, and what you can call as the authoritarian pragmatic in the foreign policy. So, any solidarity or increasing participation of China in the Bangladesh's economy or Bangladesh's internal affair is further will intensify and amplify the authoritarian tendencies in the domestic politics of Bangladesh as well. So that seems to be a very contradictory stand. Apart from that, also we have to understand the million-dollar question is that how can Bangladesh with its new democratic spirit align with a non-democratic country like China? And if it does not mend its ways, it is quite possible that it will go on the same line and it will suffer the same fate as a small country Cuba has suffered, that is situated in the North Atlantic Ocean. We know that during the height of Cold War, Cuba cozied up with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, or Soviet Union as we can say in the short, and it took a stand, a firm stand against the United States of America. And now what happened after that? The Soviet Union faced decline. Soviet Union left Cuba on its own, and today Cuba seems to be an international pariah. Its economy and domestic economy, domestic industries, everything has suffered a severe setback, especially after the imposition of sanctions by US and complete cut off of trade ties between US and Cuba. A similar kind of fate we can see, which we hope will not be the case in the Bangladesh if it does not mend its ways. Now, other area where India can play a very important role, a constructive role in Bangladesh, is the climate change factor. We have to understand that the Indian Ocean region, specifically because of the climate change, we are seeing unpredictable weather patterns, unpredictable monsoon, and that is why the extreme weather events, whether it is the heavy rainfall or extreme aridity or drought-like condition, and the changes in climate patterns, it is going to profoundly affect Bangladesh, both agricultural as well as immigration pattern. And we have to understand that in the long run, Bangladesh will have no other option but to rely on India for the disaster mitigation and rehabilitation. Not only because Bangladesh do not have its resources or enough resources, but also because these resources will not be enough to cope up with the environmental pressure, the climate change pressure, its high population or the what you can call as population dense area will have to face. And one of the most densely populated states in the world, if you talk about, is Bangladesh. And that is why, if due to the vagaries of climate change, if many areas of Bangladesh become uninhabitable or any disastrous climatic event occurs, in that case it will lead an uncontrolled influx of refugees into India, and that is where also Bangladesh will have to depend and work together with India. So what we can understand from here, that no matter whether we are talking about the security perspective, whether you're talking about the economic perspective, whether you're talking about the humanitarian perspective or climate environment perspective, in all the case it seems that Bangladesh will have to depend and will have to work in collaboration with India, because it is its largest neighbor. It is sharing a huge border with India, and also India, we have to understand, we have to remember that it was India who played a constructive role in the formation of Bangladesh or liberation of Bangladesh from the West Pakistan. Now, on a positive note, what we can understand that going forward, what should be the right step for the Bangladeshi government? So obviously there need to be a realistic and pragmatic foreign policy for Bangladesh for its own good. They have to understand that cozying up to China or creating an anti-India psychosis in the public or media, or coming up with the anti-India rhetorics and statement, is not going to help them in the short run or even in the long run. Both its strength and weaknesses demand that it ally with a regionally integrated South Asian future, and if the what you can call as the a democratic Bangladesh and a democratic India, we talk about, that is one common theme both countries had enjoyed, despite the limitations of democracy in both countries, can come together to create a South Asian century. So if such kind of sentiments emerge again in the Bangladesh politics, then obviously we can again see a road of constructive dialogue and resumption of better ties between both nations. Till then, we'll have to wait and watch and see what is going to be the next step and the next reaction by the government of Bangladesh. So that is all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with the fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such helpful content. Thank you very much.